So during this whole world shenanigans, there have been some changes to many people's businesses and lines of work. Fortunately for me, working from home, that hasn't really affected it a great deal. However, I'm aware that because most people won't be using their systems or be using it less, and there's no car shows, and obviously income is questionable for many people, I'm starting to wonder, I'm thinking, people aren't going to be sending their amps in. They're not going to be blowing their amps because they're not using them. Or if they are going to be blowing them, they're not probably going to be looking to get repaired anytime soon because there's no car shows. You know, there's a few, but basically I'm expecting work to wind down quite considerably. So I thought to myself, okay, what else can I put my skills to good use doing? And some of you may be aware that there is a great high demand and shortage of Nintendo Switch consoles. Now, Nintendo Switch has been out for a few years now. There's been a few revisions of it, but this whole kind of lockdown thing seems to have come at the same time as a new, very popular game called Animal Crossing. I have never played any Animal Crossing games before. I'm not a massive gamer, but there seems to be this huge demand for Nintendo Switches and Animal Crossing, so people can play Animal Crossing in the lockdown while they're stuck at home, or for their kids to play, etc. So I looked and I was completely befounded to find that Nintendo Switches are selling used for more than their retail RRP at the stores. So they're obviously in high demand. And so I thought, maybe I can make some additional money and make up for my loss in less amplifiers to repair by buying some broken Nintendo Switches and seeing if I can fix them. So that's exactly what I've done. Hopefully those of you who are watching my channel more regularly these days are watching it for the repair content, and with obviously the audio being a thing that you like as well, but predominantly for the repair content. So I'm hoping that this is still going to be entertaining for you for a little bit. I'm definitely having fun with it and learning some new stuff with these very small soldering skills and circuit boards and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd love to be at the point where I can repair these things as well as I can car amps. So and in order to assist me with my endeavors on this journey, I have bought myself one of these USB microscope things with the screen, so this is really difficult to see. I've had to nick one of my cameras for this. So yeah, this is microscope with the screen on it, and the benefit is it has HDMI output so that I can actually show you what it is showing on the screen on live stream and video. Yeah. So, feeling a bit like Rossman now actually. Now that we've got the old microscope on the camera thing, it's definitely getting Rossman vibes. Anyway, before I decided to throw a bunch of money in buying broken ones, I did research how easy these things were to repair, and they seem for the most part relatively simple. There's like 3 or 4 chips that commonly go down on them, or they're water damaged, as you'll see on this one. It's pretty bad. So yeah, basically it's just going to be a case of either cleaning up and reflowing, replacing chips on water damaged ones, or locating the faults with the common to die chips on these and just replacing the chips. Now this is much smaller stuff than I'm used to working with, so I've had to buy myself some much finer tweezers and some much finer, more pointy, sharp multimeter probes and stuff like that. And obviously I can't power these things up with my bench power supply, so I have got myself one of these USB kind of current draw indicator things that will tell me what's going on with the charge of these devices. So anyway, I just wanted to show you the extent of water damage on one of these that I have just opened. Now this one was actually listed on eBay as was working absolutely fine, and then just one day wouldn't turn on, and I was like, it could be a bunch of things, but I was not expecting this. So as you can see, this is the USB-C port, and we come in here. And then basically this over here is getting towards the battery. Now this is an inductor. It's going to be filtering out any noise, I imagine, coming through the charger. And then we have this chip, which is responsible for controlling the charge, current and voltage going to the battery. Yup, that's pretty janky. Here we have a connector for the right hand, or I think it's the right hand side Joy-Con. That is nasty, and these things are a nightmare to replace, right? This is a plastic connector, okay, and this is obviously soldered onto the board, so plastic melts with heat, right? So I have actually attempted, I've been doing some of these repairs for the last couple of weeks actually, and I have attempted to replace one of these connectors and failed miserably the first time because it just melted from the hot air. Before, a good friend of mine actually told me to heat it from the bottom of the board so that the solder pads melt but you're not applying heat directly to the plastic, which did actually work, so that was excellent advice. So I've got another one of these to do, and these are absolute pain in the arse to do, but I have got a bit of a knack to it now, so that's good. And let's move further along. This is one of these speaker connectors, and yeah, that is the main battery connector. So as you can see, plenty of moisture damage which has had current going through it, and if we pull along to the different place on the board, I don't yet know what this circuit part is for, but it's pretty bad. I imagine that could be backlight, just looking at where it is and what it connects to. I'm hoping that hasn't really got underneath this chip. This is a BGA chip. Okay, this is a very tiny, teeny little BGA chip, which means that it is soldered with balls onto the PCB, and those are notoriously difficult to take off the board and reflow and replace. So I'm probably just going to have to hope that I can reflow it in place and that it makes the connection without having to take it off and redo the balls, which would be a pain in the arse. Fortunately, the other side of the board seems to be pretty good. Here we have the backlight connector. These go down really badly because they have 15 volts on them, so if you get any moisture on any of these pins, they just eat away with the higher voltage. That's the other connector for the other Joy-Con, which is the same on the other side. Here we have the main storage, flash storage, I think. And then this connector up here is for the screen. That's looking good. I would hate for that to be corroded. That would be a nightmare. All this top end side of the board looks really good. That's these two connectors. One of these is for the fan and one of these is for the buttons. That actually looks a bit, that's been put on crooked, hasn't it? That has definitely been put on at an angle. But yeah, that's pretty good. Now if we flip the board over, we can see the other side. This is the other side of the oh god, it's like tea or coffee. I'm pretty sure that is tea or coffee that's been spilt in here, because everything has this kind of like light brown kind of colour to it. The corrosion has made its way over here. Yep, over here. That's looking not too good, and again that is a very tiny little BGA chip, so I'm hoping that I will just be able to reflow that and it will come back to life. These components here, all of these capacitors and probably resistors and inductors, are underneath the main CPU. So the corrosion hasn't made its way there, which is good. There is another BGA chip over here, and I'm not entirely sure what this is for, but that has a gazillion tiny little balls on the underside of it, and I know because I reflowed one of them on a different board and it came off and I had to try and put it back on, and I don't think I did it properly, so no, I would definitely not like to reflow that. So that's looking good. That's not got any corrosion on it either. Over here, this could also be some kind of flash or maybe some ROM. That could be ROM perhaps. Like I say, I'm not too familiar with the layout of these boards yet. This is still very early days for me. And over this side, I think we have some more backlight. This could be some backlighty type stuff. This, on another one I had, this inductor here got really badly corroded. That's another little BGA chip. But yeah, most of this side of the board is looking pretty clean. So the only real bad area over here is the charge area, the area that's designated to charging the battery. So I do actually have a spare one of these chips, so I'll hopefully be able to recover some charge functionality into this board. I don't know what the functionality of this is, however, and also on the underside of the board I'm going to have to hope that I can just clean up this side. So first things first, let's take out our isopropyl alcohol and our toothbrush and get to cleaning this thing up. Let's absolutely cake that in ISO. I've got to actually be careful with my isopropyl alcohol because you can't buy it at the moment. Yeah, obviously alcohol being antibacterial or whatever it is, it's in very high demand at the moment, and I only have a very small bottle of isopropyl alcohol left, so yeah, without it would be a bit of a nightmare, so I'm going to have to go easy on it. Yeesh. So yeah, these are all ones that I've purchased for myself rather than being customer repairs, because obviously I'm not too well versed in these repairs yet, so I'm not going to offer that as a service to customers yet. And the idea is to sell these at reasonable prices. Too many people are buying these and hiking the price up, hoping that they can make a quick profit. I would like to sell these for a sensible amount of money. Obviously this one being heavily water damaged, I don't know if I would trust this one too much, so I might just keep this one as a kind of working example I can use for other repairs. But but I do have some switches here which I have successfully repaired that weren't water damaged, so I have no problem in selling those ones. This is like, I don't know, it's like caramel. This one's like caramel damage. I'm gonna actually call this one the caramel damaged one. Damaged with thick juicy caramel. Battery connector's coming out all right. I'm actually wondering, okay, so whatever liquid was spilled on this thing, it obviously had a lower total water content to just water itself. Like, yeah, there was a bunch of green corrosion on the top of this stuff, but like most, I think actually if we look on the bottom of this, I'm actually expecting this to come out okay. This looks like it's just the residue of whatever other stuff was in this drink or caramel that has been spilled on here. And I'm actually wondering whether the pads and stuff are okay. I'm wondering whether there's actually not too much corrosion under these components. It's kind of gone hard. It's kind of like caked itself on there, hey? The capacitors here, the ends have lost their sheen, and I have seen this on another board that was quite heavily water damaged. Oof, this one. Oh, what on earth? So with this chip, because it's BGA, I really want to avoid taking the chip off. I just want to try and reflow it in place. You can see how tiny this chip is by the size of my toothbrush bristles here. Yeah, this isn't going to really help at all, is it? The bristles are far too big. Okay, let's just do this final bit over here. And then once I have cleaned it up a bit with the alcohol, I'm going to use my multimeter and check for any shorts on the board. And just so out of interest, that is the battery connector itself on the top. And how bad does... Okay, I reckon we can clean that up and that'll be salvageable. So another really important bit is these ribbon connectors, and oh dear, this one's not going to be salvageable. So this is a ribbon connector for the Joy-Con, I think on the right hand side, and as you can see the corrosion just eats away at these pads, and so a bunch of these I don't think are going to be making a connection anymore to the top where they need to be. Now if this connector didn't have as many pins on it, I might be able to get away with doing some kind of interesting stuff with you know, reconnecting these pins, but these Joy-Con ones, they have so many tiny little pins on them that, you know, there's really no point trying to fix that. That's just going to be a new connector jobbo. So here we go, and this is the connector that ribbon cable came out of. It's difficult to say, but that might be alright. So this is the other side, and that looks to actually be okay. Yeah, I think I might have actually got lucky with this connector. I think this one might be alright. Alright, let's start the reflow then. So I'm going to take my hot air gun and do some reflowation for the nation. Now then, flux, something you may not have seen me use a lot of on this channel. And actually one of the reasons that I have been avoiding using flux was every flux that I've tried has ended up becoming conductive when heated, and I've spoken to a few techs about this and they all laughed and said that they have been in the exact same situation. And a couple of the guys did a lot of research and they found one that doesn't, that is perfect, that you can just leave on, you don't need to clean it off, and it works wonders. And this is Chip Quick SMD 2913 OCC. It'll be backwards, but I'm sure you can get it from that. To be honest, with the amp repairs, everything is so big, all the components are so big that, you know, the flux in the solder core is actually enough. Let's load her up. A bunch of flux. Absolute bunch of flux, right? So I'm going to start with my air pressure low, just to melt the flux and get it under the chip, so I don't blow it away too much. Get nice and hot. Oh, stop going that way. Get under the chip. Get on all of the legs. Come on. So I'm going to turn the air pressure up now and go for it. I've got to be careful as well because the plastic connector for the Joy-Con is actually just to my right. just right close to where I'm heating with the heat gun, so I need to be very careful that I don't melt that. There we go. Good job. Good job indeed. And how is that connector looking for the Joy-Con? Not too shabby. It's covered in flux, but that's not a problem. Sweet. Have not melted that yet. Good stuff. So this is the part where I would usually use my fine tip soldering iron to sort this out. However, my fine tip soldering iron did decide to do a break recently. So for this one, I'm going to have to try and skillfully and carefully use my bloody large chisel tip for this job. As you can see, it's not actually hot yet, but it is possible to do. Just kind of go over the pads like that. Let's take a look. Actually, these don't look too bad. It kind of looks alright. Needs obviously cleaning up. I don't know if that's flux or whether that's the coffee or the caramel that got under there, but it doesn't look too bad. But we'll clean that up. There we go. You can see that there's perhaps a little bit of corroded pad here on this one. Yeah. So the moisture ate away at that pad a little bit there. So it's a good job that we did take this off. And can reflow it all down nicely. And the fact that you can actually see the little balls of solder in the solder paste should tell you how small we are working. It's absolutely tiny. It's a nightmare. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Just clean that up a bit. Yeah, I reckon that's looking alright. Okay, now let's get the chip and sort the chip out a little bit. Okay, that actually looks alright, you know. That actually looks okay. Bit of a clean, and I reckon that's good to go. Put some more fresh flux on there. Ah yes, you can see it kind of pulls itself into place. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, how are we looking? How are we looking? It might be alright. Ooh, starting to warp that connector just a touch. Need to be careful. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over that side, looking okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there, that looks okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 looks good there. Yeah, that looks like a pretty good job. Alright, nice. So the next thing I need to do then is check for shorts. I have cleaned up some of the rest of the board here, but just before I go any further, I just want to check to see if there's any shorts anywhere between any of the small capacitors or any of the other components on this board before we go any further. So, it's good. It's good. Yeah, sometimes there's a short between this capacitor here, and this can be bad news. Okay, that's not shorted. That's a good job. So yeah, I think I'm going to reflow this tiny little thing here. I don't know what it is, I don't know what it does, but I'm going to reflow it, and hopefully some of this jank stuff will fly away. Oh, actually that looks a bit better already. Maybe I will just leave that for now because I'm a bit scared of that flying away. So I'm going to try it without reflowing that area first. See what happens. Now the other worst area was this bit down here. So I probably am going to have to reflow this little chip down here. Okay, just be careful. Be careful, Sam. Don't knock it off, because if you knock this chip off, it ain't going back on easily. I'm just giving it the gentlest of touches and just looking for a little bit of movement. There we go. Did you see that move? So that has now all melted and is now setting again. And that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to give it a tiny little nudge just in case there was any cracks in the solder, and now that has moved the wet solder, and it should set again and make a connection if there was one that was broken. So let's let that cool down a bit. There's one more area on this board that didn't look too great on the other side, but I'm not going to reflow that just yet. Now what I'm going to do is I am actually thinking of just plugging it into a known working screen and seeing if we have any signs of life whatsoever. Okay, I've actually got a spare working sort of screen assembly here with the battery and all that that's known working. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it in this one. So just to test this out, we don't need everything connected, but we do need backlight connector connected, obviously. The buttons at the top, let's put those in just for jokes. And we do actually, interestingly, we do need the speakers connected because it detects the impedance, the ohm load on the speaker, and it throws an error if it detects that the impedance is wrong or if they're not connected. Oh, right then. So now the first thing to do is, obviously, I'm going to connect the battery up. Now, batteries don't have any current protection really on them, so if there is a problem somewhere, then I could see smoke. So I'm going to get my thermal imaging camera, which has been very useful to me in amplifier repair. Just turn it on and just point it at the board and make sure we haven't got any crazy hot spots when I plug the battery in. If we do, I can quickly remove it. Okay, looking good so far. No heat spots on the board anywhere, which is good. Right, let's now connect a charger. .3 amps, 3.6 amps, and it's gone down, and we're still on 5 volts. Oh, up to, oh, got some pretty big current, got almost an amp going in there now. It's fluctuating around a little bit, 0.6, 0.7. We're not fast charging though, I don't think. The current is fluctuating a lot. It's now, yeah, it's going all over the place, the current actually. It's up and down, up and down. Let's see if we have anything whatsoever on the screen at all. No, nothing on the screen here, so it's possible. What the? Actually, it's on. What? What? I guess it came on when I plugged it in. Okay. Sweet. Well, okay, great stuff then, awesome. That's working. Got all the games on here from previous owner. Excellent stuff. I guess that's a repair then. Awesome. Wow, unexpected. I was not expecting that to work at all. I'm going to put it back together a bit better now that I know that it does come on and work. I'm going to put it back a bit better, and then I'm going to try and dock it and try the charger both ways round, because that also can change how this works. So yeah, but that's looking promising. I'm quite excited to see what this does now. Another thing I'm not too sure about though is this connector for this Joy-Con over this side here, which was pretty bad near the corrosion for the battery. So what I'm going to do is plug in some known good Joy-Con rails and see if we can get Joy-Cons working with it. Okay, so it is back assembled. Now I'm fully expecting to have issues with the Joy-Cons. This connector that was next to this whole power chip that we reflowed didn't seem to want to go back into the connector. The ribbon cable didn't want to go back into the connector particularly well, either due to corrosion in there or just due to the fact that I slightly warped it when I was reflowing this chip down here. Very annoying, but it's in now, but I'm not expecting this Joy-Con to work. I might have to do a new connector on that, which will mean taking it all out again, but let's just see what happens. Hope for the best, I guess. This is the side that I'm expecting to work fine, hopefully, because it didn't look damaged at all. There we go. That is a Joy-Con paired. Now this side is the one that I'm expecting to not work. As expected, nothing at all there. I'm going to try poke around with this controller connector just a little bit more, just to see if I can get it to work. I really don't want to have to put a new one on there because it is a nightmare putting these controller connections on. I always use plastic tweezers when I remove the battery connector, just in case with the metal or anything shorts out. So watch this, when I just gently push down on this connector, the controller connects and then releases. So I wonder if I can just make a repair to this just by holding this connector down like this. If it's reliable, then I may just keep this one for myself, or sell it to a friend with this issue, knowing that it might have a dodgy connector. Yeah, so this is just a very temporary way to hold it down while I figure out if all the buttons on the controller works and if, you know, that is salvageable by any means. So there's just a little bit of CA glue there. I can easily get it back off if need be. It's just a small bit of CA glue. So, okay, so yeah, both controllers are showing up down the bottom there, you can see. So let's check the red controller first. Yep, and the right controller, this is the one that's got the issue. Center button works, up, right, down, left. The minus button doesn't work too well, but that's actually an issue with the controller. I'm aware that this controller has a bad minus button, so actually surprisingly all the buttons seem to work. So I might just put this back together now, and I might use it myself for a couple of weeks, see how it goes. But yeah, maybe this could be one I could sell to a friend or something. Especially being water damaged so badly like that, I'm not sure if I would feel comfortable selling this to a random customer for them to, you know, use for the duration of, you know, for their enjoyment. I don't know if I'd trust it. I do also need to check the game cartridge and the SD card reader. I need to check that those are okay too. But I'm quite happy with this. Seems to work. Alright, should we try a game? Let's try a game. Okay, Overcooked, that looks quite fun. Let's try that. I have no idea what this game is, by the way. Not a clue. I do not know what I'm doing. There's a plate. Some food over here. Oh wait, in the top corner it's got some dishes I need to prepare. Okay, but I'm fairly, you know, happy that it runs a game and that works and that's all good. So let's turn this off now and fully assemble it with the back on. And alright, wicked! So that's that one all up and running, and it's just being tested by my tester over there. Yeah, see how that goes. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that will be all good to go. I know the glue on the ribbon cable is not permanent. I just want to make sure that the switch is working reliably for a few days, playing games, getting warm, getting cold, and then provided that it maintains functionality. To be fair, there is some truth in don't fix it if it's not broke. So yes, that ribbon cable is janky. It obviously is only making a connection when it's pushed down like that. However, if it being in that position, it doesn't get dislodged or it doesn't cause intermittent connection issues, you know, once I've tested it for a week or so, do I really need to do anything more to it? Provided it works. Hey, you know, it's not ideal. It needs a new connector ideally or whatever, but in the long grand scheme of things, provided it continuously works and doesn't disconnect, do I need to change it? Do I need to waste my time any further? Maybe not. But I will make a note of that one, and I will keep it in close proximity with friends or family or whatever, so if it ever does go bad, I can then go, alright then, time to change the connector. But anyway, let's move on to a different one. So this is actually the screen and case from the Caramel one. As you can see, this one actually has some caramel stuff still around the edges, and we can actually see some caramel in the screen just at the edges here, so I want to make sure this screen works alright. So that's one of the reasons I didn't put that board back in this case. I wanted to put it back in a known working case. Now I do actually have this board here. Now this board was another liquid damaged one, and this is one that I have already worked on and repaired before. I needed to reflow a bunch of stuff, similar to what I just did on this last one actually. I needed to reflow this charging chip down here and a bunch of other stuff. Now this connector for this Joy-Con does look bad, but it actually works just fine. There was a problem, however, with this Joy-Con connector, and this is one that I replaced just before I started recording. And it's kind of a shame because I would have actually liked to get that on video. It was a bloody nightmare to change. But I think I finally managed to get it connected properly, and I haven't tested it yet. So that's what we're going to do next. You can see there's still some flux that remains on the board there. The flux I'm using, it dries like proper rock hard candy, so it's very difficult to get it off even with isopropyl alcohol, but it's fine. It doesn't go conductive. You can just leave it on the board. It's not a big issue. So yeah, this was an absolute nightmare to line up and get all these pins connected, but I believe it's done okay, and now I just need to test it out. So because of the amount of liquid damaged switches that I have got to repair, that I've obtained to repair, I actually don't have a spare left hand side Joy-Con rail that has an intact ribbon cable. So what I'm going to do, this is the last one, this is my number 5, so I bought 5 switches to try and repair. This is the 5th one. So this one came in today. I have no idea what's wrong with it. I haven't even tried to turn it on yet or looked inside it or anything. So what I'm going to do is take this one apart, and while I'm taking it apart I'm going to steal the rail. Hopefully it's not liquid damaged. I'm going to steal the rail and put it into this one so that I can then have a third fully functioning switch. So I can test the connector repair that I did on this board, make sure it was okay, and then we can look at what the issue is with this one. So let's take it apart, and for those of you who haven't seen Nintendo Switch repair before, these use a kind of triangular shaped, it's a proprietary screw. It's kind of a triangle in shape like this. But then once you've got these 4 proprietary screws out, all of the others are just regular Phillips head. Okay, cool. Now that back plate should come off. Oh dear. Oh dearie me. Another liquid damaged one, and we can tell that instantly because this here, this is pink. This is pink, which means that liquid has got in here. And also we can see a bunch of corrosion over here by the battery connector. Let's take this to the microscope and inspect it further. It doesn't look like it's had a lot of liquid damage though, so maybe this one will be recoverable quite quickly. So yes, we can clearly see liquid damage on the battery connector. This area tends to get it the worst actually, because obviously you've got battery voltage there. Now let's move along here. We've got corrosion in that Joy-Con connector, so I'm going to have to just disconnect that. This whole board's got to come out anyway. The fact that we've got liquid damage here. This board looks like a different one though. This Joy-Con connector is a different colour to the other ones. This is white and the others were grey. It's interesting. Okay, there we go, and we've got some liquid corrosion here. Not too bad over by the charging chip. I'll probably just reflow that rather than removing it. Inductor looks okay. That's the pink indicator for liquid damage. Okay, let's go up to this chip here. Now this chip is responsible for some power duties, and that one looks okay. Let's move over this way. Now this is the backlight connector. Now this is the one which gets absolutely wrecked if there is any liquid on it when it's powered up. So fingers crossed. Oh, it started to eat it. Oh dear. So you see that pin there, that pin number 4? That has started. Actually pin number 3 looks pretty bad as well. So it looks like we might have to do some work on this backlight connector here. Actually, I think this one might be salvageable. There's not too much corrosion on there, but provided that the actual connector itself is okay, I'm going to have to get in there with the isopropyl alcohol and the toothbrush. Provided that the connector's okay, that will be salvageable. Let's lift up this connector here. Hopefully this one's okay, because this is the spare one that I need. Ah, beautiful. That's perfect. So that is the spare connector that I need in order to test out this other board. So that's good. Oh dear. Oh dear. That's water corrosion up by the screen connector. That's not what I wanted to see. That could be a nightmare if that's bad. I've got a good feeling about this. I think this might just be kind of on the surface. I don't think this looks like it's eaten any of the pins here. Oh, I'm not sure about that though. That looks pretty nasty there. Okay, yeah, that looks promising actually. It doesn't look like it has eaten any of these pins. I think it was just surface, so I think we caught it in time. What we do need to turn our attention to is the other side of the board. Now, that's our USB-C connector, and just above that there is a USB P13 chip, and oof, that looks pretty nasty. Oh lordy, it's not looking tasty. So let's clean it up, and then I will want to reflow this chip, I think. I can actually fully remove this. It's not BGA, it's just using some nice pins and pads on the chip there, so I don't have to worry too much. Now that kind of looks maybe okay, but it looks like we might have a couple of cracked solder joints there. Yeah, it looks like we might have 1 or 2 solder joints there that are cracked. Now you see the little orange bit above the pads, that's not what it needs to connect to. There is, however, some corrosion around this chip which I did not want to see, because this is a BGA and I do not have much luck and success removing these and replacing them. So this is the sound chip, that looks okay. There was no corrosion over this side. Let's have a look at the small components over here. little bad on the other board. That looks okay. I could really do with an ultrasonic cleaner. That would be awesome, because I could just dunk this straight up in the ultrasonic and call it a day. Let's get our hot air gun ready to roll. So let's dump a bunch of flux on here. This is such tiny work. Now pay close attention to when those little pads melt. You'll see them go nice and shiny. So we're just waiting for the large trace on the bottom of this chip to heat up enough that it melts. There we go, see it move? There we go, that's enough for me. Now let's let it cool down. See all those pads reset there. And if there was any bad solder connections on any of those legs, that should have sorted it out. Cool, so I actually have a fair confidence in this board. It didn't seem to have a bunch of liquid damage, so I'm just going to go ahead now and do the check of resistance. The resistance check. I'm pretty happy to try this in a case now. So, okay, I think I have 3 cases over here. Okay, so this first case, this is the one that I just removed it from. Okay, so what I actually want to do is I want to take a look at some of these connectors. I want to see what the issue is, if there is any bad connectors, which I think there was. I think the backlight connector wasn't looking too happy, and that's quite an important one, so let's take a quick look at that first. Whoa! Okay, so you can see there's almost a break in that trace there. I might be able to just go over that with a bit of solder paste and a bit of heat, but I don't want to melt the ribbon cable. The other ribbon cable I had was really bad. This was all corroded and stuff, so what I did was I actually chopped it off here. So I chopped this section off with these pins right here. So that was all gone because they were all ruined. And what I did then was I took this back half here and I scraped away this insulation for these 3 pins here. And I then chopped off these edge pieces, which would have prevented it from going into the connector. And then this part here became my new connector, and it actually worked out really well. So I might try... Ooh. No, okay, that's not recoverable. Look at that, it just basically came straight off when I scratched that. Actually, that shouldn't happen at all. So, okay, I'm going to have to do the same thing here with this one then. So you'll get to see me do that, which I guess is kind of interesting. Let's just take the isopropyl alcohol and clean off this. So, what I need to do then is I need to take my Stanley knife. So I'm obviously going to have to be very careful here, but I just want to chop this front section off here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rock the blade back and forth rather than try and do like a chop. So I'm just going to rock the blade back and forth like this, which should make an indent in there. Okay, there we go. She's off. Okay, cool. So we can say goodbye to the old connector because that is no use to us anymore, and we can turn our attention to what is going to be our new connector. So like I said, I need to get rid of these side pieces because these get in the way and they prevent it from actually going in the hole. And what I need to do is I actually need to do it at a slight angle, like this, and that allows it to go in nicely. So let's try and get that done now. Okay, there we go. I might actually still need to take some more of that off. There we go. That's looking really good. Let's do the same to the other side. See here, this pin number 1 isn't actually used, but I don't want to cut too far into it because I need these pins to line up nicely. Okay, there we go, looking good. So now all that's left to do is to scratch off the insulation on these here. Now if I screw up here, if I mess this up, if I damage one of these traces, then it's kind of game over for this whole display, because this ribbon cable goes into the display and I don't think you can take the ribbon cable off from the other side. So if this goes wrong, then it's game over for this ribbon connector, and it's either then a case of soldering little tiny wires to any remaining trace here, and like then soldering it to the board, which is an absolute nightmare. I tried it once before on a ribbon cable that was just too far gone, and I didn't have any success whatsoever with that. It's either a case of doing that or just buying a new screen. Okay, so very frustratingly, my scope cam, the connection to the PC is bad, and it can't seem to show you what that looks like anymore. So I'm going to have to go jank mode and point a camera at the built-in screen. Yeah, not sure how well you can see there, but all three of these pins I have scraped off the insulation and cut that back, and that's actually looking pretty good now. So I should be able to just chuck this into the connector and it should work. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to try it out with a known working board to confirm whether this connection is good to the backlight. Cool, so that one's the one that I just did the backlight connector on. I have another screen case over here. This one has a very bad backlight connector that I've tried to solder wires to, which does kind of work, but it involves me needing to solder some wires to the PCB as well. So this one's kind of a last resort job. And this one here, this one is the Caramella. This one's the Caramella one. So this one actually has a really good looking backlight connector. And the battery connector looks okay. So okay, I have two that I could go with here. I'm thinking, actually, looking at the condition of the Caramella one, I'm actually thinking that one might be a good one to go for just now. Okay, so this is a known working board. This is the board that had the Joy-Con connector repair over here that I did. I didn't show that on camera, that was before. So this board works, and well, hopefully it does. If it doesn't, then I'm going to do a cry, because it means that it killed itself. I'm going to put this in the Caramella case, because this Caramella case has the best looking connections all round. The backlight connector looks excellent. Doesn't look like it's damaged at all. And the battery's cleaned up okay and everything else, so I think this one's going to be the best case to put this known working board in that I did a repair on. This board was water damaged as well, so I'd be quite happy if this one comes out okay. Okay, so this is the one that I had to do the Joy-Con connector replacement on, and I'm not very confident about it. It was just incredibly hard to do, very tiny, so I'm just going to see now whether any Joy-Cons do actually want to connect to it. So this right hand one is the one that I replaced just now. Oh dear, we have nothing, as to be expected. So I wonder what I have done. I think the other side will go in okay. Yep, that side's fine. So it's just this side. I'm gonna have a play around with it on the desk here, like I did with the other one. Just poke around that connector and see if, you know, I can make it do a connect by moving stuff around, perhaps. No, it doesn't want to work. Okay, so this is the water damage one that we just most recently did some reflowing on and stuff. It wasn't so bad. I'm just going to plug it in for the first time and see what happens. And let's go, see if we get anything on the screen at all. I'm not expecting us to. Oh, we do! Oh, hey! Would you look at that? Okay. Oh my goodness. That is very exciting indeed. And it's up and running, fully charged. We have touchscreen is functional. We have both controllers connected. And if I just go in to check the functionality of the controllers. Cool, so I'll let that charge up a bit more and then run some endurance tests on that, make sure that that is good to go. But so far that is 3 out of 5 at the moment, now fully functional, provided this one is obviously good in testing. So the fourth one out of 5 is almost good to go. However, and that's this one. However, this is the one with the dodgy repair on the Joy-Con connector that still doesn't want to work. So I'm going to have to give that one some more attention and see what I can do to get that working. Another thing which I did notice might be a problem, this chip here, this part of the board here. So this is obviously the game cartridge slot, and also it is responsible, I believe, for the touchscreen. So on one of our water damaged ones, I believe it was the Caramella, we have, actually this one here, you can see how badly water damaged it is. You can see all the residue from the water on the game cartridge thing itself. So one of these actually isn't working with touchscreen. So it could be, yes, I think I can actually now just see some corrosion on the chip here, which must be responsible for the touchscreen. So that means that one of these is no good. I do have another one over here as well that I took out because it was causing the switch to display in cartridge not detected correctly, even though I had nothing plugged in. So I assumed that had some weird issue. So I've got a couple of these that I might need to look at, and but provided I can sort out the game cartridge thing or get a new one of those, and provided I can sort out whatever's going on with this Joy-Con slot on this one, this also will be a fully functional switch. It works perfectly, he says. No, it doesn't. I was going to say it works perfectly, but I just remembered I removed the touchscreen. So that is clearly responsible for the touchscreen. So this one does work perfectly when the touchscreen thing is in there. So it's a fully functional switch, but it's just the Joy-Con connector is dodgy, and I just need to get better at replacing it, or work out what I'm supposed to be doing over there, like work out why it's not working, work out what connection I've missed, and go over that one again. But yeah, pretty much 3.5 out of 5 at the moment, or 4 out of 5 once I repair this Joy-Con connector, is pretty good. The fifth one, which is this board here, this one had some very bad water damage, and it's the one that I tried to reflow a BGA chip, and I accidentally knocked it, and the solder balls came out of the bottom, and I put the chip back on, but this one had no life to start with, and it still doesn't have any life after reflowing everything. So I might need to replace some chips on here, but I can try replacing the 3 main chips that tend to go down, but then I don't really hold much hope for my dodgy BGA situation, so that one could just be a write-off, and I might just have to use this one for spare parts. But yeah, 4 out of 5 working, just need to get the connection issue on this one sorted out, is a pretty good turnaround for these, considering I started without having a clue what I was doing. So pretty impressed, pretty happy with this. I will continue looking for dead switches on eBay to repair, as it seems to be a pretty good little thing to do. I'm sorry this wasn't amplifiers, but I thought I would show you what else I'm getting up to in the meantime whilst the amplifier stuff has slowed down a little bit. So yeah, let me know if you liked it, and I will catch you on the next video where we will be back to looking at some amplifiers. Take it easy, see you next time.